Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we get to sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players and related music industry experts. If you love playing guitar, stick around. You're in the right place. Hey everybody, this is Craig Garber from Everyone Loves Guitar, and I've got I don't even know how to say I don't have enough adjectives, and I'm a writer. I've got an amazingly talented guitar player to interview today, and I'm really privileged and happy to interview Dave Baker. Not only is he a great guitarist, he's a very humble, genuine guy. Dave's based out of Nashville, and since 2012, he's been the lead guitarist touring with Kellie Pickler. With Kellie, he plays electric and acoustic guitar, mandolin, and lap steel, touring about 100 nights a year. When Dave isn't touring, he has a permanent residency in not one, not two, but 3 different Nashville clubs. He plays Sunday afternoons with his band, the Spasmatics, at the Doghouse. Monday night, he plays a monster country set at the Whiskey Bent Saloon, and Tuesday night at Winners. Dave's newest CD is called 71 South. Buy it. It's really fantastic. I did. It's and Dave didn't even know we were going to talk about the CD on there, so this isn't like a setup to pitch Dave's stuff. But it's a tremendous CD, and I wouldn't say that. I'm not the kind of guy to blow smoke up people's rear ends, but there's just some amazing playing on it, and we'll discuss some of that today, as well as getting to know Dave a lot better. He's also a gearhead, and he's got an awesome collection of really cool guitars, and we'll talk about these as well. And for most of you guitar players listening to this, whether you know it or not, you have probably already seen and heard Dave play. Dave's been doing all the video demos for Dr. Z amps since 2009. And even if you're in the very small minority of guitar players who don't like Dr. Z amps, I would encourage you to just go watch the videos just to see Dave play. It's like a little, concert in every video. He's just a very talented guy. Dave's got an interesting background. Dave's the grandson of a woman named Ruth Baker. Now Ruth played guitar and sang backup for Roy Rogers, which I'm sure was very unusual, for someone back then to have a woman even doing that, no? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
Dave began playing guitar at age 8. He went on to study music composition and theory at Cleveland's Modern Music School. By age 16, Dave was a professional musician, going to school during the day and playing paid gigs in bars and clubs by night. He earned 2 different Berklee College of Music scholarships where he studied jazz, and he also became an honors graduate of Cleveland State University, earning a BA degree in marketing. Dave's composed and produced commercial music for the Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Browns, the St. Louis Cardinals, WKYC-TV, Sports Time Ohio, KSDK in St. Louis, KPNX-TV in Phoenix, and Clear Channel Communications. And he could be heard playing guitar on commercial jingles for McDonald's, Mr. Hero, Pearl Vision, Sterling Jewelers, Matco Tools, the Ohio Lottery, and Cleveland State University. And in 2010, Dave actually got an Emmy nomination for musical composition and arrangement. Also in 2010, that's when Dave relocated to Nashville, and in spite of the fact that Nashville is probably the most competitive place to play music in the world, especially for guitars, it didn't take long for Dave's talent to be recognized. But besides Kellie Pickler, he's also played with The Line, Ashley Gearing, the McClyments, and Eric Paslay, among other top Nashville acts. And over the course of his career, Dave's performed at the White House, the Grand Ole Opry, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's toured all over the U.S. and the world, including Australia, China, Switzerland, Germany, Afghanistan, and the Middle East, twice for the USO. If you watch TV, you've seen him in action. He's played spots on Ellen DeGeneres' show, Craig Ferguson, Dancing with the Stars, The View, Good Morning America, and televised Grand Ole Opry performances. He's endorsed by Dr. Z amps, Paul Reed Smith guitars, D'Addario strings, Wampler pedals, Exotic effects, Clayton picks, Seymour Duncan pickups, Eminence speakers, McPherson guitars, and RS Guitarworks guitars. He's also got so many cool and modern guitars, I can't even begin to scratch the surface in describing them, but check out his website at Dave Baker Guitar. It's DAVEBAKER guitar.com, and he's got tons of cool gear on there for you to look at and music to listen to. He's also an in-demand session guitarist, and he's obviously super busy, so I'm really happy that you took the time to speak with us today, Dave. Thank you so much, and welcome to the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You've even got a mural painted of you downtown in Nashville. You've been there 7 years. What's that all about? Tell me the story behind that. That was kind of cool.
Man, I mean, honestly, I wish I could tell you some just amazing story where, the whole city wanted to honor me, but that's not what happened was, and it kind of goes hand in hand with my CD. The back cover of my CD, there's a photograph of me kind of just sitting there playing a dobro resonator. And my wife actually took the photo, and so I put it on the back of my CD. And then a local artist named Kim Kennedy did an actual painting of that because she's just she's a professional artist, painter. She's also a musician. And she happened to do it, I think, on canvas. And at the same time when she was doing it, the building that my mural is on, they were running a contest of submit your artwork. And if you win, you get the image of your artwork in a mural form on the side of our building. And she won. Wow. So that's the story behind it.
That's not the mural on the side of Carter, is it?
No.
Okay.
Kim's mural is on the side of a building called 12th and Porter. So it's literally at 12th and Porter downtown. And the venue, the building is actually a venue for live music.
Wow, that's very cool, man. We have to develop a story, though.
I know. I wish I could. I should have just made something up, but
or at least get her to put like Dave Baker music. Get her to put your website underneath your name or something.
She put my name under the. It
picture. Is okay.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
That's awesome, man. Very cool. I thought that was really cool. So, man, you've got so many irons in the fire. What are you working on now that you're kind of most excited about?
I'm developing a couple artists here in Nashville, so I'm producing them and just trying to help develop their career as an artist and songwriter and stuff like that. I'm still doing a good bit of commercial music. I'm still doing demo work and stuff like that for other people, and I'm just enhancing some of the relationships that I have with some, of the guitar and guitar-oriented companies that I work with.
So when you say you're developing artists, did these guys find you and seek you out, or did you find them, or did the third party connect you guys and say, hey, I know you need a guy that can help you mature, and here's a guy?
I mean, yeah, I think actually all three of those scenarios are applicable to kind of what happens. I don't go out and scout people. That's just not what I do. Although some people do that, and that's totally cool. It's just I don't do that. I don't have the time to do that. But if I'm working with somebody and then that relationship starts growing, then sometimes that's what it turns into. It turns into me helping develop them as an artist. So, a few of the artists I'm working with right now are fairly young, and I'm excited about some of them, and it's great. I love it.
What does that consist of when you like developing an artist?
So, I mean, to me, it consists of almost everything. I mean, you're taking somebody, no matter what level they're at, but you're seeing something in them that has a little bit of a spark and magic, and obviously they have to have talent and skill, but like, are they writing good songs, and do they have the potential to write good songs? And then you're kind of holding their hand through the process a little bit, at the lack of a better term. So, you're getting them on co-writes. You're making sure that their photos are up to date. You're making sure that they're using their voice properly. You're encouraging them and setting them up with vocal lessons and stuff like that. I'm producing demos on them, and then the demos sometimes turn into something a little bit better, sometimes a master or whatnot. And then eventually you're trying to get them out there, and you're at the same time you're helping to encourage them to enhance their social media and their followers and stuff like that, helping them get a live band together for shows and showcases, and getting them out there in front of as many people as you can.
So is this the kind of thing where you're basically like a professional mentor in this case?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes that's what it works out to be. I mean, for better or worse. I mean, I don't have all the answers, but I think my heart's in the right place when I work with somebody. And I'm definitely, it's still a learning process for me with with some regard. However, I think it's a learning process for everybody right now because the music business is a moving target, and nobody has a crystal ball, and we don't know what's happening next. I mean, streaming companies are now becoming record labels, and the whole landscape is changing right before our eyes. It's going to be interesting to see where it is 5 years from now, with everything from record labels to mainstream radio and radio stations as you and I know it, to pretty much everything, distribution, PROs, what's going to happen with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, things like that. You know, and it's a scary time, but it's also an exciting time. And, you know, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of movement going on right now.
I'm sorry, what's a PRO? I don't know what that is.
Like your ASCAP, BMI.
Okay, so royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, they're tracking your songs and stuff like that.
Is this the kind of thing where if these guys develop and mature and things take off, would you have them on your own record label, or would you try to get them signed?
You know,
or you don't know yet?
Okay, I can. No, I wouldn't try to get them on my own record label. I mean, I don't think so. That's not something I ever really thought of. However, would I try to get them signed? Maybe. It would have to be, you know, mutually beneficial for all interested parties.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not doing this for, you're not running a charitable 501c3 organization, I don't think.
No, no. Actually, absolutely not. And, you know, I mean, if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I probably would have given you an immediate answer of, yes, I'd like them to get signed to a record label. But, I mean, even a lot of the artists I work with right now, that's not the forethought of their career. They're not always striving to say, I got to get signed. I think people are a little bit more aware now of what's going on in the music, especially a lot of the younger artists. They're so in touch with the now and what's going on. It's actually, you know, they're kind of teaching me along the way as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Are you like, I'm like a dinosaur. I don't do streaming for the most part. I have like, I don't know, 30,000 songs on my hard drive. Do you do that, or you do a little of both? What do you do?
I do a little of both.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of do. You know, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. No, I like when I streamed your album, and I've been streaming some artists out. That was my first broke my cherry sort of. It was really, I was like, okay, this is not that bad. When you say you're doing commercial music, you mean more stuff in the studio?
I mean, more stuff that gets placed in a commercial format for, like, either, you know, TV or radio content and stuff like that for advertisement purposes.
Okay. Have you ever done any of that? I've interviewed a couple of guys that are doing sync. Are you involved in
some stuff? I've done some stuff that is more or less like, I would call it limited licensing. Okay. So I licensed the song or the transition or the cue to a certain company for a certain period of time. And then, you know, there's an expiration date on that. And if they want to use it again, they can. But honestly, almost all of them have a little quirks about each one that's a little bit different. So it depends. You know, when I was doing a lot of stuff with TV, it seemed like that was kind of the core of it, was doing like a limited license where I was owning the music, but I was licensing it to them at the time.
Do you have to, like, are all of these things under your realm? Or, for example, when you're doing a licensing deal, do you have an attorney that you work with that's drawn the papers? Or after that initial draw, then you have to manage it yourself?
Both. So, yeah, if it's something that I feel like I can manage on my own, then I try to manage it on my own. Because, man, attorney fees can get way.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of has to make sense to me. You know, if the project isn't, if there's not a big prize at the end of the project for me, then it doesn't make sense for me to go hire an attorney and, you know, have them draw papers for $2,500 or whatever it would be, and, you know, that I'm not walking away with as much of the pie. But, you know, at the same time, though, they definitely serve an amazing purpose and have negotiated some great things for me. So it's, you know, a little of both.
I'm amazed at how many things you have to juggle, because you're not only at like a master level on the instrument, but now you've got to, you know, you can't half-ass like kind of know these agreements. You've got to know them. You know, it's like being pregnant. You either are or you don't. You got to know it or you don't. It's not like a 50% kind of thing. I'm just amazed that there's so many things to juggle.
Yeah. Man, you're absolutely right. I spend probably more of my time now dealing with business type stuff than I do actually with my instrument in my hand. Once again, for better or worse, it's just, I wish I was playing more. I wish I could just have more downtime to just kind of noodle and play. And I don't. And I find myself kind of just thinking to myself, man, I got to just get back to woodshedding, because I'm spending so much time in this one area dealing with this, which is a necessity. I kind of have to keep, you know, the proverbial ball rolling. But yeah, you know, it's a give and take. There's only 24 hours in a day.
And you sound like you're pretty organized.
Ish.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would, like when you said, you know, what made me say that was, well, there's an expiration date. You sound like you're aware, or you have a calendar which says, okay, here's my X date in 30 days for these guys. I mean, and you got to be organized to do that. You can't just like, oh, I wonder when, you know, and then like 6 months later you realize, hey, I've been using my music for 6 months without paying. You know, you can't do that shit, because that'll happen.
Oh, and it has happened. You know, some things slip by me, and then, you know, I have to kind of play a little catch up. But no, for the most part, you know, now with modern technology, you know, you're walking around with a computer basically all day.
Yeah.
So I'm putting things in there with dates and like, hey, on this date, this is supposed to happen, and, you know, based on either contracts or whatever I'm dealing with.
No, you have to. You have to.
Yeah.
It's just, and everything, something sits by everybody. It's called tuition, you know, and then you kind of like, you learn. I know you grew up in Cleveland, and obviously in a very musical family. What kind of childhood did you have?
Wow, you sound like my therapist.
I have functioned as a therapist at times, Dave.
That's great. I mean, I would say, you know, I had a normal-ish childhood. My mom and dad, both, you know, laborers. They didn't no education past high school.
What'd they do? What did your folks do?
My dad was a barber his whole life, and then my mom worked at a company where she was doing office work and stuff like that for years. They divorced when I was younger, and the musical side of the family was probably more of my dad's side. You know, his mom played, and that side of the family played. So I would spend summers back in southern Pennsylvania, and they all lived over there, my dad's side. So, and everybody played guitar, so I kind of picked it up that way. But yeah, I mean, you know, pretty decent middle class suburbia childhood.
So you spent half the time in Cleveland in summer. Well, I mean, schools was in Cleveland, and in summers was with your family up in Pennsylvania. Yeah,
in like lower PA, yeah, like almost toward the border of Maryland. If you know where Somerset is, that's where I would spend my summers back there.
It's very rural there, correct?
It is, extremely. Oh my God, yeah.
You have any brothers or sisters?
No, I'm an only child.
Okay.
They got it right the first time.
Oh, there you go. I like that. What what drew you to the guitar in the first place? Obviously, you always had music going on. Was it just that natural extension of that, or?
Yeah, I think it was a natural extension of family, and just seeing, you know, cousins and uncles play. And my dad's uncle was really, really involved with bluegrass. So, you know, he's really the one that taught me how to play, my Uncle Mike. And then when I was kind of good enough to play, he'd start bringing me with him to a few different like bluegrass festivals, and I would just kind of play boom chuck rhythm guitar with him. But it was fun, man. It was great that he did that for me, and, you know, kind of encouraged me to to keep playing and gave me some exposure to what it's like to play on a stage and things like that. So it was great.
So this is your, I guess, great uncle? Your great uncle?
Yes, exactly.
Man, learning on Bluegrass, that's like baptism by fire. That's not easy music to play at all.
Well, yeah. And let me be completely forthright about it. I wasn't up there as some 9-year-old prodigy on guitar. Although I think, to the audience's standpoint, they saw me playing along and it was kind of cool. I wasn't playing these amazing lead lines or anything like that on the guitar. I was just kind of playing along with the song at the time. But it definitely gave me a great education in just music in general and playing with other people and interacting with other musicians. It was great.
Yeah, that's a good social. That probably develops your social skills at a young age, doing all that, and because that's a hard skill. Especially today, everybody's like in their computer. That's why there's. I think again, I'm going to sound like the old man I am, but there's a lot of social awkwardness today, and I think that's a result of not having contact with people.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
People are on a computer talking. And they think they're socializing, but there's no social development when you're on a. You can say whatever you want. You're not getting any feedback. Are you saying something appropriate, inappropriate? Is somebody put off? Do you need to polish up? There's no feedback, and I think that's probably a great skill for you to learn at such a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great just to be with such mature musicians and for them to be encouraging and. Like you said, there's a human interaction. There's a human element to it that you can't substitute anything for that. Yeah.
Who are your biggest influences as guitar players?
Man, I mean, they kind of go all over the board, and it really does. I mean, I can sit here and give you the standard answer of Hendrix, Page, Beck, and stuff like that, which definitely they were all influences, but. Man, I was influenced from everybody from, Joe Pass to Roy Nichols to Willie Nelson to, Van Halen, Yngwie, all that stuff. And I think they all came into I was exposed to them at different stages of the game. So it's like, I remember being 14 years old and just being blown away by Van Halen. And that was my thing for right then at that time. And then, the next year, maybe I was onto something else or whatever. But I mean, all of it and Stones and Beatles and everything, man. I mean, really, I hate to sound cliche about it, but it really, all of it speaks to me in a different way.
No, that's great. I mean, you can hear it in your playing, so it's you're very versatile across all these genres, so it's not surprising. Did you have a separate influences for playing and tone?
Yeah, I think I did because there's some players that I really like, but it's hard to get past their tone.
Who are some of your tone the tone people that you really admired?
Well, I mean, there's definitely definitive tones when we like Jeff Beck and Stevie Ray Vaughan and stuff like that. Like those were all tones that I think I started chasing. When I started chasing tones, it was stuff like that. It was like, man, how's he getting that tone? And then trying to research what he was using and the gear he was using and, all that stuff. And later kind of figuring it out that it was, half of it was the guitar and the amp and the other half was just the way he approached it and his feel and, a person's hands. Half their tone is in their hands, if not all of it, yeah.
You mentioned Beck a few times and of all the guitarists I've ever listened to, he is like the eighth wonder of the world because I don't know how he does what he does without a pick. It's nuts. I mean, it's insane, and
he's great. Have you seen him live?
I have seen him live twice. Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's just like, I've got goosebumps now just thinking of it. To be honest with you, it's unworldly. I don't know any other way to describe it. I don't know how he does that.
Yeah, he's an alien. He's amazing. I agree with you 100%. he's just great. He's got his own style, his own touch and feel, and his ability to play in a song and take you on a musical journey and tell a story. I think he can tell a story just as good as anyone ever has on the guitar. That's my opinion of him.
Oh, I agree with you. And he's also very diverse. I mean, he's had periods where he goes through, he'll have an album, it's like an industrial album. He'll have an album, it's kind of more classical. What's that?
Guitar Shop was kind of, really, because he had Basio on there.
Yep.
And he, pulling out some of those tricks at the time, and it was amazing. But definitely, I agree with you.
Yeah.
The live at Ronnie Scott's, man.
Oh man, that's a great. Yeah, I have the video of that, man. If you want it, remind me afterwards. I can get it to you. It's fantastic. In fact, let me make a note of that so I don't forget.
I think I have it somewhere too. That's and what a great band.
Oh, the whole thing is, and it's a great show. I don't usually talk to too many people that, for some reason, people don't mention Beck as often as I feel they should. Guitar players even, and I'm surprised.
Right.
Are there any players? Well, let me ask you this: do you think modern music lends itself so that 20 years down the line, is there a Jeff Beck of today? Is there a Jimmy Page of today? I don't see that, but I'm not a guy that, in all honesty, listens. I'm not on the forefront of modern music. I mean, do you think there's going to be that? It seems like music's a little different now.
I think you're right. I think music's a little bit different now. So, first of all, there's a lot more people in the world right now, and there's a lot more people that play than there were then. And I think that there's more avenues of exposure for people than there were back then. I mean, and people have affordable technology at their fingertips. Like, back then, not only did you have to be good at what you did, but then somebody had to capture it on record. Somebody had to record you. And recording equipment was expensive back then. So, all those kind of little pieces had to fall into place before you and I would be aware of anybody at the time. But now, we can go on Facebook or we can go on YouTube and we can see a 15-year-old kid in their bedroom that's just completely tearing it up, which is really, really cool. But because technology is so affordable to everybody, you see a lot of that, and there's a lot of it out there. So I think that, is there a Jeff Beck of today? Yeah, I think there's probably maybe a couple of them or a few of them, at the lack of a better term. But I think it also kind of gets lost in a little bit of the noise too, a little bit of the static that's going on, because there's so much of it. You can go on your computer and you can get just lost going from video to video all day long.
And it seems like there's other, I don't think they're instruments, but a lot, obviously I'm in this small minority. What's considered music is not made with instruments now.
That's right.
I have a couple of good buddies and they love listening to house music. And I'm like, to me, that's like, if someone came with a sledgehammer and just pounded on the side of my head, but I'm in the minority. I know this because these clubs are packed with kids listening to house music, and there's no guitar solos in house music,
No.
And I think there's just more stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
What's something that once you've been a professional for a very, very long time, but as you started getting more into the business side of things, what is something about the music business that you discovered that most people either wouldn't be aware of, or that you were even surprised at the time to learn?
Well, I think that it's a continuous learning process, because there's so many pieces and parts that go into it, especially like moving here to Nashville and seeing what the whole thing looks like, and the whole hierarchy, at the lack of a better term, of how you have an artist in a song and how it goes from, grassroots level or, just a work tape level to something that you and I would hear on the radio, that becomes like a number one. I mean, man, there's so many little pieces and parts along the way that are involved in it. And I think that's what kind of really surprised me a lot was, I think we all think that, music kind of forms if it's a song, and then it gets kind of polished and produced, and then it kind of goes out there, and then it gains some feet and popularity, and then boom, you have something that is part of pop culture or whatever. But there's so much more to it than that. There's so many other hands in the pie that go along with it along the way. So I think that's was a huge learning experience that I'm still learning about to this day. But yeah, there's a lot to it. There's so much to it that I sometimes wish that I wasn't involved at all with it, and I was just playing guitar.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah,
I can understand. What do you do? So, how do you push through that, like, mentally, when you're just like, fuck, man, I why do I, what drives you to keep pushing through that? Because I've been through stuff like that myself, where you're like, man, I just want to do this, and I got all this other bullshit to deal with. And you have to have almost a system, a mental system, to compartmentalize and handle all that other bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of just pick and choose what I do. And I also kind of pick and choose my battles. And if there's something that I'm like, wow, this is going to take a lot of time and a lot of work to chase this down, and I think I would be much better use with my skill set doing this for now, then sometimes I farm things out to other people, like we talked about earlier, to have an attorney or to not have an attorney. All right. So it depends on how much work I have to put into it. That's part of it. That's not always the benchmark of whether or not to get one, but oftentimes, that could be the answer right there is, wow, I'm going to be putting a lot of work into this, and it's going to be a lot of back and forth. And man, I just don't want to do it.
No, I can't blame. I find a lot of the decisions as I've gotten older, I make based on what's the stress level involved.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it came to me a few years ago that to some degree stress is self-mitigated. You can determine in many situations how much stress is in your life. And so I've tried to, when I make a business decision now, if there's two things, I always almost gravitate to pick the path of less stress. That's my choice, for better or worse, because, it's not in a selfish way, but you got to get to a point where it's more about taking care of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You got one life. What the hell? There's no fucking do-overs here.
No, there's not. I mean, when I moved to town, a good friend told me, because I was trying to break into the scene, and I was like, man, give me some words of encouragement. Tell me what to do. Give me some insight. And he said, man, say yes to everything. Just say yes to everything. So I did, which was great. It was a great mantra to follow. But now I find myself still saying yes to everything. And it's hard. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to pick and choose what I do a little bit. And oftentimes you're right. It's based on how much stress is it going to cause me? How much is it going to satisfy me musically? Is it going to touch my heart? Is it going to be something that is going to be like that? Or is it going to provide an opportunity for me?
Sure. Very good one.
If I do this and put in a lot of work, will it then blossom into something else from there, or a new relationship, or something like that? Is it going to pay my bill this month? All that stuff has to be taken into consideration for sure. Yeah.
Do you know a drummer in town, a younger guy named Kyle May?
I do. Yeah.
I interviewed Kyle, who's a fucking wonder. Oh, I think he might have referred me to you, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you do. I said to him, because he's starting to do really well with his production stuff now, and I said, when you first came to town, day zero, and now you're able to kind of pick and choose and turn down some stuff. What's the formula? And verbatim, he said, I said yes to everything. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I thought that was really smart, and hearing you say the same thing, that's, it's a hustle, man. You got to hustle, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah, you really do. That's true.
I've come to learn, and I've been involved in many businesses over the last 20 years, but I've come to learn that the industry of music is not much different than anything else entrepreneurial that you're doing. It's a lot cooler, a lot more fun, but it's it's a business, and it's highs and lows and hustling and, along those same lines, what's the most important lesson that playing guitar has taught you as a person, or that you've learned about yourself through that? See, this is like therapy, man.
It is.
But I don't know about you. When I go to therapy, when I leave, I always feel better. So if you leave feeling better, I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah, just send me the bill. Man, I think it's taught me some patience for sure, and it's taught me also about commitment and seeing something through. I mean, even at an early age, in the most primal sense of playing guitar, it was like, everybody kind of goes through the same process. You're learning just to kind of get familiar with the instrument, and then you start playing single notes or you start playing chords, and then it's like you're presented with this new challenge, and then you kind of have to break through that challenge. And what does that take? Well, it takes a little bit of patience. You can't have unrealistic expectations about anything, and then you also have to be committed to it. Where you're going to work at it and you're going to see it through, and then you get past it. And then what's next from there? Depending on who you would ask, it could be several different things. And usually, like, I teach guitar a little bit as well. And when I teach open chords to people, this is just kind of anecdotal, but I'll show them several songs with open chords to play, okay? And it could be anything. It could be everything from Bob Dylan to Tom Petty to Lenny Kravitz. So, I'm showing them how to play open chords, but I'm showing them it in a song structure. And my goal is to get them to switch the chords in time so it sounds musical. So they're not breaking up the rhythmic content, okay? So then once we get past that, usually the next stage is, now we're going to work on bar chords. And bar chords is usually when people either stick with the instrument or they don't.
Really?
Yeah, I find it a lot of times. Yeah, because it's really, really challenging. And it's kind of almost hard for me to remember because it was so long ago that I learned bar chords. But I kind of relive it through other people when I'm teaching them. And I'm watching them fumble around with their hand and their fingers. And I'm like, man, this is really difficult. It really is. You're trying to train your muscle memory to make this shape that's really weird with your hand. And, now you're trying to make it sound good. And now you're trying to change this weird looking shape in time and make it musical and make a song. And usually I tell people, when you first pick up the guitar and you go to like open chords, that's one step. But when you go to bar chords, it's like taking 4 steps. It's very challenging to people. But once again, if you have some patience and you have the commitment and I feel you can get through it.
Are you a type A or personality by nature?
I think I'm probably. Yeah.
So that patience thing, that was a slow burn then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a type A, and I have not been playing guitar a long time, but I'm glad I waited in a sense till I was older because I'm always so demanding, and for some reason I've been okay with moving at the guitar's pace instead of my own, and which is weird for me. But I just said I want to do this and enjoy it, and if I apply my normal demanding self to this. This is not going to be enjoyable, and I practice every day and I enjoy it, but it's been tough, being a driven sort of person, So, what was your first guitar that you got?
It was an old Stella, just some whatever it was, 70s knockoff.
You don't still have it, do you?
I do not. Unfortunately, I don't. I do have a guitar still that I've had since high school. I have an old 73 Strat, and it's my go-to Strat.
That's awesome, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, I acquired it when I was still in high school when I got it, and it was kind of pieced out, and I kind of had to put some TLC into it and do a little bit of renovation here and there. But man, I got it up and running, and I've been using it since then. It's great.
Do you take that out and play gigs with it?
I have before. I don't tend to take as much of my older gear out on the road anymore. If I'm doing something around town, I might. Definitely in the studio I do. I'll bring, there's always my main food group of guitars that I always are the go-to ones. It's always the Telly, the Strat, the Les Paul, the 335. It's always those.
Right.
Okay? And then anything above and beyond that would be maybe more of a specialty guitar that I would bring in for whatever. If they're like, hey, bring in a Gretsch, I'm like, all right, I got that too. I can bring that in, But yeah, for the most part, when I'm out on the road, I'm trying to not bring anything that is too expensive.
Oh, plus the sentimentality, if something happened to that, it would be really a buzzkill. That would be awful.
It is. Yeah. When I first started with Kelly, I have a Gibson 57 Junior, a real one.
Wow. And
I had it out on the road with me because it sounded so amazing. And then one of the guys was like, man, why do you bring that out with you? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I bring it out because it sounds so good, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And then I stopped bringing it.
The paradox of owning a good sounding instrument. What a shitty thing. Is that the one with the P90, the one pickup?
Yep.
Yeah, those are, you ever heard of Leslie West?
Yeah.
That's what Leslie played. And man, talk about a tone monster. That's his guitar.
He made it famous, actually.
That was his primary guitar.
Yeah.
Do you prefer vintage guitars or modern guitars?
Man, I just prefer a guitar that feels real good. I was
just sorry to interrupt you. That is so refreshing to hear, because I hate when people go on these freaking monologues about vintage is blah 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 blah, and I think that's like saying obviously chocolate's the best flavor in the world. Like, what the fuck? I mean, it doesn't even make sense to say that.
No, you're absolutely right, and I can give you a really good reason why. So right after I moved to town, I started talking to this company based out of Lexington, Kentucky, and they're called RS Guitar Works, and they make their own guitars. So I went up and I visited them, and I visited their shop, and it's kind of a smaller shop. It's not like they have a bong load of employees. I think there's 4 of them there that are working, and they pick out their own wood. That's the one thing that's really, really special about this particular company. They're not buying necks and bodies and just putting them together and relicking them and calling it, their company. They're actually picking out the wood and cutting the wood. And I thought, man, this is great. So they made me a guitar. And I remember when I got it, I was like, man, this thing's really, really cool. I had a hard time getting mentally past the fact that it wasn't a Fender, Telly. Because I have my go-to Tellies are I have a 67 and I have a 66. And those are my ones that I go to all the time. And even after I got my RS Guitar Works Telly, I didn't embrace it right away. And then finally, it was like a light switch. I was like, who cares that it doesn't have this classic logo on it and it's not by this company that's been around for 60 years? It plays great. It feels great. It speaks to me. It sounds good through anything I put it through. It can twang and it can rock. I can get it to sound country. I can get it to sound Led Zeppelin 1. and that's what's great about it.
That's cool.
You know, so
I think like is some of that based on like whenever I will look at a guitar to buy, if it's not I always think of like resale.
Yeah.
And like if I'm not buying a Fender or Gibson, I know I'm going to be stuck with this thing, and if I want to get rid of it, I gotta. And it's almost like a buying. It's like a buying habit, you know.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing, though, too. Not necessarily, because it depends on what the product is, and you know, as you know, I mean, some are going to hold their value a little bit better than others, and that goes the same with, I mean, anything that we buy. Whether you're a guitar collector or a gun enthusiast or anything like that. I mean, certain things hold their value better than others. I find myself, you know, I'll go ahead and pull the trigger on a vintage amp or an amp or whatever, for example. But I always know in the back of my head, hey, I'm gonna check this out. I'm gonna try it for a while, and if I don't like it, I know I can turn it around again. It's no big deal.
Right. Do you I at this point, you obviously don't need another guitar like most guitar players. But when you do buy something, what about it is like, I'll buy this. I gotta have it.
Okay, so that's a good question. Besides like some hot button I have for something that might come along, a lot of times it's utilitarian. It's very practical for me. So it's like, ooh, I don't have that in my paintbrush collection. Okay. So I need that because it does this really, really well. And I don't have that. And even though I might hardly ever use it, a great example is years ago when I was younger, I had a hot button to get a sitar, and I got one from India.
Wow.
And you know, I was going through my Beatles phase. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking in the back of my head. Is must have listened to Beatles. Yeah.
And I got the sitar, and man, I practiced that thing all the time as much as I could. And how many times have I used it in the studio? Probably a couple dozen over the years, but that's it.
Right.
That's it. Hardly ever. I hardly ever use it, you know, but I have it.
Yeah,
and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, but you might be putting a song together and think, you know, wow, this would be this little part here, this little thing after the chorus or on the bridge before, you know, this, man, I could just play a few notes on that sitar. That would be the transition. Yeah,
and man, when those moments happen, I'm doing a victory lap.
Yeah. See, I knew I should. Thank God I got this thing. Wow, yeah. I'm a genius. Awesome.
Never have buyer's remorse again about that.
I hear you, man. Hey, let's talk amps. So you've been doing all the stuff for Dr. Z for quite a while. Is this like an Ohio connection?
It is, absolutely, yeah. We're both from the same area. And then I was actually a customer before any sort of larger relationship happened. Well, truth be told, when I was younger, right around the time he started production of his amplifiers, he was still doing it out of his home in his basement. He was also the go-to repair guy around Cleveland, Northeast Ohio. Mm-hmm. So I was bringing my old Marshalls to him, and he was fixing them for me and stuff like that. And man, I remember when he told me, he said, "Yeah, I'm going into production. I'm going to start building amps." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." But it wasn't until years later, you know, he provides something to the market that is extremely unique. He provides an amazing amplifier, and I really think he's found his own sound at an extremely affordable price. If you look at some of the boutique amps that are out there and then look at Dr. Z amps, I mean, he's definitely a little friendlier to the pocketbook than a lot of them. And they're all handmade. Yeah. I mean, there's no printed circuit board. It's all point-to-point wiring. It's all solid, great parts. He stands behind his product. I mean, he's picture perfect of what you would want as an amp builder and a businessman. I mean, he's both, you know. He's very conscious of his products. He tries to make the best product he can. He's extremely musical thinking. He wants the amps to be inspiring and all that stuff. And I think he's great. So, yeah, right around 2008, 2009, I mean, I had already been using one of his amps quite a bit. And one of the guys that worked for him contacted me and said, "Hey, could you do some video content?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." So I said, "Where do you want me to go? And what studio do you want me to go in? And tell me what to bring." And they were like, "Oh, no, that's not what we meant. We just want you to do the videos and give us a finished product." So then I had to learn a new skill. I had to learn video, and I had to learn video editing.
I was going to say the filming's not bad. It's the editing, man. That's very meticulous. You know,
it is.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I started very primitive. It was all on iMovie.
Okay.
You know, and it was that version of iMovie, the 2008 version of iMovie,
which was clunky as hell, and it took up like 95% of your RAM. Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was challenging, but it was great. And then from there, over the years, it kind of evolved. He liked what I did for him at the time, and then he was like, "Hey, man, can you do some more amps?" Absolutely. And then over the years, you know, my game got better. In the beginning, I was borrowing cameras, these big clunky Sony DVDs, you know.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't long after that I finally bought a DSLR.
Right.
And then I upped my game and I started using Final Cut, you know, which was...
I can't believe you make those videos yourself, man. Those are very well done. I'm shocked. Well, plus you got to learn miking, which you kind of knew, but it's different when you're filming something in a small place than when you're at a club or a concert hall.
Absolutely, yeah. I had to learn all that, and I'm still learning. Absolutely.
Right. That's awesome. I had no idea you made those yourself. Wow. Very cool. Well, at least you get to play a lot of cool freaking amps, man.
Oh, yeah. Man, I love doing all the Z stuff, and yeah, it's been great.
Can I ask you a self-serving Dr. Z question?
Okay.
So
I'll answer it.
I had a newish Fender amp when I first started playing, and I just didn't like the sound. It was thin, and then, you know, if I put an SG or a Les Paul or a Fender, you really couldn't tell that there was different guitars. So I went, and then I got this Dr. Z here. It's a Maz Senior 38 watt, and I have a Marshall 1936 cabinet, right? So the problem is now I love the sound, but it's like, you know, it's like bringing a machine gun to a fight with your buddies when you're fighting water pistols.
Yeah.
I'm in my bedroom. I'm not playing out. What can you, and I like a British Brown sound. I play mostly blues.
Yeah.
What amp would you recommend? And would you recommend a head and a cabinet or just a combo, you know?
Well, I mean, in the Dr. Z line, I definitely have my favorite amps of his.
Okay.
And coincidentally, my first Z was yours. It was
I don't know if you can see this.
Let's see. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Looks great.
It's just like it's overkill
for your room. Sure.
And there's no, and I can't saturate the tubes because the walls would cave in.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah, so my first one was also a Maz 38 Senior, and it was a 212 combo. And man, I mean, I was gigging with it, so it was fine. Man, even some places I'd play, it was a lot.
It's powerful, man.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of amp. One of my favorite amps of his, although the Maz 38 is amazing, is his Carmen Gia. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've seen. Isn't that was a special line, a special run he did? It's a smaller head. No,
it's no. He still makes it. It was one of his first amps. It's just two knobs. It's a volume and tone. I don't want to say it's based off an AC-15, but I think it's loosely based off an AC-15. Once again, the Z's have their own sound. Mike has his own tone to it. So I definitely don't want to sit here and just say it's an AC-15 clone because it is not. But if you were to kind of compare it to anything, that would be what the majority of the people would compare it to, would be that. So to me, it's wonderful. It's somewhere between 15 and 18 watts. It's loud enough to bring to a gig. It's also friendly enough to play at home. The other advice I would give to you would be to get one of the Dr. Z air brake. I think it's called an air brake light or something. and you can attenuate your sound when you're at home.
Great.
So it goes between the head and the cabinet.
Okay, so you would not get a combo. Stick with the separate cabinet. Just get the smaller Z head, the Carmen Ghia.
I mean, if you can afford to do that, absolutely, it's great. You know, they're both great amps. I just happen to the Carmen Ghia to me is just the perfect amplifier. It's amazing.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Hey, I want to talk about your CD, which is called, again, 71 South. Honestly, it's fantastic. I was talking to you before. I really loved it. It's got a ton of different styles of music. What were the primary guitars you used on that, or loads of them, or what were your primary guitars?
I mostly used probably my RS Guitar Works.
Is that the one you're holding in your hands right now? Or is that a Nash?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's the RS. Interesting, because that is your go-to, because most of the pictures, or when I see you playing out on videos, you've got that. Wow.
Yeah, I play it a lot, man. I love it. Nice,
beautiful looking. Was that like seafoam green or surf green?
It's funny. It started out 6 years ago as robin's egg blue.
Oh, wow, which is a gorgeous color, man.
Now it's faded to this weird grandma's basement green, and it's done it naturally. It's oxidized over time. If you take the pick guard off of it, it's still robin's egg blue underneath. So They're really interesting what they do. They did very, very extremely light relicing to it, but all of this, if you can see, that there's worn places in the back of the guitar, that happened naturally because they put a very extremely thin coat of paint on.
So that's buckle rash from you.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful guitar, man. I that's really nice.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, this guitar to me, it's extremely versatile. It's one of those paintbrushes that I can bring in that, it can do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What are you playing through? What amp are you playing through?
I'm playing through like a little champ that I have that I usually have up here. So it can do that really well, and it can do that really well.
What was the difference? What was the difference in both of those, or was there no difference? Like we're using different pickups for those?
Nope, I used the same pickup. All I did was I had a little dirt on for when I did the Zeppelin riff.
Wow.
Yeah, that was it.
By the way, does that Carmen Ghia take pedals well?
It takes pedals great.
Okay, I will ask you no more questions about that, but thank you.
You can ask me anything. Hey, I'd be happy to answer anything about Dr. Z stuff. I'm a huge fan of his, and I still work with him to this day. We actually just did a project together just most recently. I play through a Kemper a little bit here at my place, and when I do smaller demos. So I ended up profiling about a dozen of his amps.
Oh, very cool.
Now he's the first major manufacturer to offer his own Kemper profiles of his amps.
Very cool.
Yeah. So I'm really happy for him, and he was excited to kind of throw his hat in the ring with that.
That is like the weirdest noise when you program that. It sounds like a freaking spaceship landing, doesn't it?
It sounds like the world is ending. Yeah.
It's very intimidating, man. I don't know. Okay, so you use mostly the RS for that. And when you played acoustic, what did you use?
I probably played my McPherson.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little about that. Oddly enough, my favorite song on that CD on 71 South is Esteban, and I'm not even an acoustic guitar. I don't like listening to acoustic. I mean, I'll listen to old Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young or something like that, but I don't usually listen to acoustic guitar. I mean, it's got a Latin flavor, that song, but I don't consider it. It's not a Latin song.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely is more. Yeah, I would say if I were to describe the style, it's definitely a Latin style song. And my title is a little tongue in cheek. There's a lot of tongue in cheek things on the CD.
What was that song about?
What's Esteban about?
Yeah, what was the prompt for that?
Well, I mean, it was basically me writing a Spanish Latin feel melody and then kind of putting it together like that. And then when I was coming up with the title, I think it was just
what's the first Spanish name I could think of?
Yeah, no, it was me watching these late night infomercials with Esteban on it, and I was like, man, what a great title for my song.
Awesome. That's perfect, man. That is perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, your playing on there is just, again, I'm not even a guy that listens to Latin. I can't even explain it. Everybody listen, go check out that CD. It's awesome, and listen to other songs. The other songs I like are the opener, which is called Guitar Center Saturday. And, you know, my notes to myself are, it sounds like Joe Satriani back when he played melodically, you know, like on his old stuff like Surfing with the Alien. And it sounds like you had a lot of fun on that song, actually.
Mm-hmm. I did, yeah. Definitely, once again, probably neoclassical influenced, extremely Yngwie influenced for that song. You know, a lot of the harmonic minor thing going on. And I try to make it a little comical by calling it Guitar Center Saturday because, you know, you always have that one dude sitting there just shredding.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I try to reproduce somewhat of a Guitar Center Saturday soundscape. In the beginning of the tune, you hear somebody playing Stairway to Heaven that's a little... you know, a little out of tune, a little off time. So, you know, there's that going on. And I think I played a little piece of bastardized version of Sweet Home Alabama. And then it's all these things with a bunch of noise going on. So it was almost like I had just as much fun making the soundscape for it as I did putting the song together.
It's a great song, though. It was really
thanks.
good. And I also like, it was really pretty song was Closer to Home. That was really, you know, very touching. What was behind that?
I think once again, you know, it's all coming up with these songs, and some of them speak to me emotionally more than others do, you know, and some stuff is serious, like Closer to Home it's more of a serious song. I'm not going too far off the deep end with the tongue-in-cheek on it, and same with a song like Geneva that's on there. You know, it's a little bit more serious, where you have songs like Guitar Center Saturday or Esteban or The Brothel that are a little bit more fun and jovial. So Closer to Home is something that I think when I played it and I was listening back to it, I was closing my eyes and I was just picturing home. You know, I'd already been in Nashville for a few years, and you know, there's always a big part of me that is going to be Ohio, that's going to be Cleveland, that's going to my heart is going to be there. That's where I was born and raised, and you know, I think that's maybe where it came from.
Yeah, it's a really pretty song. I really enjoyed that. It was quite nice. I listened to it several times. I read an article on you where at the time you said your dream band would be Roger Daltrey, Ron Wood, Steve Jordan, and John Paul Jones. I get all of them, but I was just curious what made you pick Ron Wood for rhythm guitar.
Wow. I got to figure out where that article is, because that's a great band.
I don't get Ron Wood, though.
I think I've always been a fan of his playing, but I've also been just as much of a fan of his swagger. So, you know, whether he was doing Stones or Faces, I've always kind of really enjoyed listening to him play. You know, if there's any video content that I've seen of him or seen him live, it's equally enjoyable. He's just kind of, I don't know. I've always really liked his playing. I like his rhythm guitar playing. I like his slide playing. Once again, I think it's a little bit of his attitude and his swag.
His presence. Yeah. He's always having fun. That I could tell you, man. That guy is never sitting there. He's always smiling and he's always laughing. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's got a great autobiography too. If you ever have a chance to pick it up,
I didn't know that. I have to check it out. You know, it's another good one. I don't know if you like him. Greg Allman's was really good.
Oh, I never read it.
Yeah, it was a good book. I have Beck's. I'm halfway through that. It's not. He didn't write it, so it's a biography, not auto. So it's you don't know how much to believe in there.
Have you ever done Slash?
No, I haven't. Good.
It's probably one of the best ones I've read.
Okay.
It's really amazing. He paints such an amazing picture of LA music scene in that time period. It's the imagery and everything is really amazing. He does a great job.
Thanks. I'll definitely check that out. Are we okay for time? I'd love to go a little more. Okay, great. So I'm going to take you inside the music studio now. This is the real therapy where it starts.
Cool.
All right. Are you outgoing or shy by nature?
Oh man, I think it depends on the situation. I have this weird, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just something innate or if it's just the fact that I've lived in the North for so long, but I'm a little standoffish until I get to know somebody. And
really?
Yeah, and then I kind of open up. Yeah. I'm friendly, but at the same time, it takes me a little bit to warm up.
Interesting. Just for whatever it's worth, my perception of you is that, we had very minimal interaction, but you seemed so open and like warm.
Yeah?
Yeah, for whatever that's worth. Yeah.
And then I feel like this therapy is working.
I'll be in town till Saturday. No, in fact, I had mentioned to someone, said, oh, I'm interviewing Dave Baker. I said, I don't know the guy. He's like such a warm guy. Yeah, that's how you came across. So very interesting. I don't always ask. I ask that question to some people when I get a vibe, because I think sometimes your business, whatever it is, I've spoken to a lot of people that are painfully shy, but in their business, it's almost like they get to play a different character.
Absolutely. I feel that way too.
Yeah. And not that any of it's being duplicitous. It's just, okay, I'm in this mode and now I could be this guy, and then I could leave leave the office, close the door, and then be my quiet, self again.
Yeah, I feel that way as well, and it's not disingenuous. It's real with me. But yeah, I think I go into kind of like a business character at the lack of a better term.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty common in creative professions. Or I shouldn't say, I think it's not uncommon in creative professions. Because I think creativity is a very intense thing. It's a very personal thing. And to share that at any level, there's a vulnerability there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's not easy, and everybody has different personalities. And I think for the person who is shy, I would imagine that when you open that vulnerability, it takes a lot out of you as a it's a drain mentally. It's an exposure. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that especially applies to the quote unquote songwriters.
Yes.
Now, yeah, especially like here in Nashville, there's so many songwriters here, which is great. I mean, that's what keeps the whole thing going is good songs. All right. Because it starts there. It starts with a well-written song. And I think that you're on target with that. There's a certain amount of vulnerability that goes into it. And it's a definite intimate setting when you're opening yourself up and you're writing a song and you're exposing yourself and you're just laying it out on the table, for better or worse, all the light, all the darkness, it's right there.
Yes.
And those are the best songs, not necessarily with regard to subject matter, but with regard to the process of a person just letting themselves go in the writing room with another person and then kind of breathing and getting past that. And now let's just write a great song,
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot. I wouldn't consider myself a songwriter in terms of that.
Right.
I don't do co-writes where I'm like, hey, I got a great idea for a lyric.
Yeah.
That's not my jam. That's not my, but I see it a lot in the writing room and I hear people talk about it a lot. And, that's great. You know, that's really cool. I love how that process works.
But I think even to put yourself out there, like, you know, for me, one of the things that I got most out of guitar was it forces me to live in the present.
Yeah.
Because when you're playing guitar, man, you can't think about some bullshit that happened on Thursday of last week. You can't think about, oh, I got this going on tomorrow. You're right there. And that's been a wonderful thing for me because it's something I've always wanted to do a better job at. And it's now I've been able to apply that to other areas of my life. And I think when you open up on stage even and you're playing and you're putting your heart out there, I mean, I think at the level especially that you're doing it, I think that you know, I think there's I see the emotional effort that's been put forth into doing that. Mm-hmm. And so it's an exposure, man. And I think anybody who does that on a regular basis, you know, at the level that you're doing it, you know, you know, hey man, all the respect in the world. It's not an easy thing to do, you know, so I can totally get it. You're single or married? You're married, aren't you?
I am. Yes.
How long have you been married?
11 years.
Oh man, congratulations.
Thanks.
Any children?
Nope, no kids. Just 2 dogs. Yeah.
Well, I have children and dogs, and I will tell you, the dogs are far more well behaved than the kids. Yeah. Now that the kids are out of the house, they're fine. But there's it's only like an 18-year period of difficulty.
That's it.
That's it, man. How'd you guys meet? How'd you meet your wife?
We're both from the same suburb of Cleveland.
Cool.
So we're both from the same town. And we kind of met through music. So in the beginning, she was singing. And then as time went on, she got more into her education, her academics and stuff like that. And she has a great job here in Nashville. She has a great career here in Nashville. She's doing real well.
Awesome.
And she's a data scientist.
Wow.
So that's what she does, and she loves it, and she's a rock star at it. She's amazing.
That's nice, man. You know, it's funny. I had a funny feeling. Don't ask me why I get weird sixth sense. I had a funny feeling she was an artist. I mean, that you came together through your crafts or something like that. I don't know why.
Yeah, we kind of did.
That's great.
Did, yeah. And she'll still sing for me on certain things. Like I'll have her sing backups on a track, or I'll be like, hey, I got this jingle. I need you to sing on it. So
that's cool, man. Very cool. Yeah. And congratulations on 11 years. That's good, man. Are you a rule breaker or a rule follower by nature?
Ooh, man. I'm probably by nature, I would say I'm probably a rule follower. But I don't mind when it's on my own turf and when I'm calling the shots for it, especially creatively. I don't mind breaking the rules at all.
Gotcha. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I mean,
is that another therapy session?
Yes, because my wife and I talk about this all the time. She's like, you got to do something else. And I go, I know. Do you got any suggestions? So for a while I was golfing, and I'm really, really terrible, but it's become a little therapeutic. I run, so I'll run outside, and I'm not really a quote unquote runner. My wife is. She's done something like 11 or 12 marathons. Wow. But yeah, and that's not me. I'm not really built like a runner like that. But I enjoy doing it, and I'll make myself go out there and do it. But I mean, at this point, I'm kind of dealing with just day-to-day things besides my music career. We're building a house right now, so nice. I think
congratulations, man.
Oh, thank you. We're moving in probably about 4 weeks.
Good for you, man.
So that's something that I'm going to have to deal with, and it's exciting though. I'm going to have a really nice studio on the lowest floor, and it's going to be really cool. And I still make frequent trips as much as I can within reason to Cleveland. I do that.
Family or business or both?
Both.
Yeah, cool.
Both.
Your parents still up there?
They are.
Great.
They are, and they're getting older, so I'm having to deal with that a little bit.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And, go ahead,
yeah.
sorry.
No, that's it. Yeah.
You know, it's funny you said that. One of the things in your videos, I'm always like, God, this guy's got the coolest freaking sneakers on.
I have cool sneakers.
Yeah, and all your videos, I'm like, God, he's got really cool sneakers. So you said you're a runner. They must be your running shoes or something.
I got to look at the video. I can't remember if I wore cool sneakers. If you tell me I did, then I'm sure I did.
No, they're always like, and then you have like some like, I don't know, you had these sneakers where the tongue came up, and then you had boots where I was like, God, those look pretty cool looking. They look good with jeans. I was like, so it's so funny you said you're a runner. It must be your running shoes.
Maybe, or I'm just this fashionista. I have no idea.
Yes.
Yeah,
and there you go. Now you have your next hobby.
Yeah,
strike a pose, man. What's the favorite place you've traveled? You've been all over the place, man.
Oh boy, I've been all over the place. I would say my favorite place that I've traveled, Kellie Pickler is the artist that I play for. She is extremely involved in the USO and military. So I've done several USO tours with her, and we oftentimes tend to do them around Christmas, if not on Christmas.
Oh, wow.
I've been over in Afghanistan or Iraq on Christmas several times.
Wow.
It's not the prettiest place in the world, but it's definitely been the most satisfying gigs I've ever done.
It's very rewarding playing for those guys.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't know if that's the question you asked. I've been all over. I've been to Switzerland, played like in the Alps where it's incredibly gorgeous, Australia tours and stuff like that. I've been over to China. They're all great. They're wonderful. But probably the most satisfying to me has just been playing in the middle of an armpit of a desert for our soldiers.
That's great, man.
That's been amazing. And I have to thank Kellie for that, for exposing me to it and for dragging me with her on my first one, which was definitely baptism by fire. I remember the first gig I did, we were in Bahrain, and we got briefed in the morning, and we had to land a plane on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the Persian Gulf.
Holy smokes.
And man, I don't even do roller coasters. So I'm popping Xanax and getting myself all to go. And they were briefing us on how to brace yourself when the plane lands on the aircraft carrier. And I was half an inch away of just not doing it. I was so scared. But honestly, I really thank Kellie a lot for dragging me through it, because she made me get past my fears, but at the same time, I was exposed to playing for the most amazing people and audience that I ever could.
Yeah, I have nothing but so much empathy and respect for all those guys out there doing that. It's a very difficult what they're doing.
Absolutely. Incredible.
I'm going to ask you two more questions. Who's had the biggest influence on your life?
My wife.
That's great, man. Very cool.
Without a doubt. My wife, for sure. I mean, I'm the person I am today because of her. There's no doubt about it. I think I was a little bit of a lost soul, and then when I met her, I definitely found more positive direction in every part of my life. So, yeah. That's
awesome. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I feel the same way. I've been with my wife for 25 years actually, and I feel the same way. And I think that's if there's any quote success of our relationship, we have ups and downs like everybody else, but we make each other better people.
Yeah.
You know, I'm so much of a better person in so many different ways because of her influence, and I am so grateful for that every day. Especially now, you know, I'm 53, and everybody's like getting divorced, or like, you know, you find out, you know, they haven't slept in the same bedroom for 15 years. They haven't had sex in 10 years. And I'm like, holy shit. You know, I'm a little dysfunctional, but, you know, yeah. I respect my dysfunction more. You know, it's like I'm so grateful for having that opportunity, and I feel the same way. So congratulations. I'm happy that you have that.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to ask you one other question. What are you looking forward to in the future, either musically, professionally, or personally?
I'm looking for. I'm always kind of not always. I'm always interested in what the next stone is that I'm going to jump to, and oftentimes it's not a single stone. Oftentimes it's a couple different ones, and I'm still trying to grow as a musician. I'm still trying to grow as a guitar player. I'm always going to be a student of the guitar, no matter what, But I'm trying to branch out as a musician. Like I said, I'm getting a little bit more into production and artist development. So to me, that was a very natural transition to go into. And I'm really excited to see what happens along that journey.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Listen, man, I cannot thank you enough for your time. You've been very generous. You're just a hell of a. I'm so glad I got to talk to you and meet you. I really feel honored. You're a really genuine, sincere person, and I appreciate that.
Oh, well, man, thank you. And I feel the same way about you. Thank you so much for having me.
And is there everybody, I'm going to tell you right now, check out Dave's CD, 71 South. It's awesome. Honestly, it's really good guitar playing. Let me tell you ahead of time, you're not going to go and say, is this a blues CD? It's a jazz CD. He's like a very diverse player, and on his first CD, I'm sorry, man, I'm taking over here. I apologize, but I like this CD so much. I just want to
go. Just bill me for this too. This
right. It's a great eclectic mix. It's got like a little bit of everything on there, and if you are a player, you will be blown away by the clarity of his playing and it's very concise, it's very clear, it's very expansive, and yet it's very, very melodic, most importantly, in whatever genre of style he's playing. So check it out at 71 South. Your website is Dave Baker Music, right?
Dave Baker Guitar.
Dave Baker Guitar, I'm sorry. It's Dave Baker, DaveBaker guitar.com. Anything else we can promote?
Oh, no, man, that's it.
Are you on social media? Or
I'm on social media. I think both of them are Dave Baker Guitar, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. I think my Facebook page is probably the same thing. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And all right, so everybody just send Dave money and listen to him. And he's a not only a great guitarist, he's a really genuine person. So I appreciate everybody listening. I hope you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Dave, thank you so much again. Thanks for listening. Let me know if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to discuss in a future episode, and you can do this by posting on our Facebook page at facebook.com/everyonelovesguitar, or you can email us at info@everyonelovesguitar.com. Now go play your guitar and have fun. Till next time, I'm out. Peace. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.